Welcome to the 700 Club. Two presidential candidates in two different town hall meetings, offering two very different visions for the future. President Trump and Joe Biden talking to voters in the country last night about the coronavirus, the economy, the Supreme Court, and even more.
Both candidates were asked some important questions, but Biden was not asked about one issue that's on many people's minds. Heather Sells has the story.
The second presidential face-off turned dueling town halls took place at the same time and forced the audience to choose who to watch. President Trump's Miami town hall with NBC anchor Savannah Guthrie seemed more like a sparring match at the beginning, especially on COVID.
Now you take a look today at the UK, you take a look at Spain and France and Italy. There's tremendous spikes.
But our death rate is worse than, well, not Spain, but those other countries.
I have things right here that will tell you exactly the opposite.
Me too.
In contrast, ABC anchor George Stephanopoulos was relatively easy on Vice President Biden in Philadelphia, with a key exception on packing the Supreme Court.
No matter what answer I gave you, if I say it, that's the headline tomorrow. It won't be about what's going on now, the improper way they're proceeding.
But don't voters have a right to know where you stand? They
do have a right to know where I stand, and they'll have a right to know where I stand before they vote.
So you'll come out with a clear position before Election Day?
Yes, depending on how they handle this.
The vice president did compliment the president on his Middle East peace deal before denouncing his foreign policy as isolationist. And in one notable moment, he told a mother who said her 8-year-old daughter is transgender that he fully supports children's decisions on choosing their own gender.
The idea that an 8-year-old child or a 10-year-old child decides, you know, I decided I want to be transgender. That's what I think I'd like to be. It'll make my life a lot easier. There should be zero discrimination.
Biden did not elaborate on medical interventions for these children or parents' rights. The two candidates spent considerable time on dealing with COVID.
We're in a situation where we have 210,000+ people dead. And what's he doing? Nothing. He's still not wearing masks.
It's rounding the corner, and we have the vaccines coming, and we have the therapies coming.
Biden defended his plan to raise taxes even as the economy works to recover from the coronavirus lockdowns. One question for Biden that never came up, the New York Post story producing emails showing that Biden's son Hunter gave a Ukrainian energy executive the opportunity to meet Biden when he was vice president. Biden in the past has denied that he ever spoke to his son about his international business dealings. The Biden campaign says there was no meeting on the official schedule. Trump also denounced white supremacists, but was fuzzy on the conspiracy theory known as QAnon.
I don't know. What I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia, and I agree with that.
He spoke at length about his Supreme Court nominee, saying he doesn't know how Judge Amy Coney Barrett might weigh in on legal challenges over this year's presidential election or abortion. Now Americans are awaiting the final in-person presidential debate scheduled for next Thursday in Nashville. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, we're going to get another debate. I don't know if it's going to change anyone's mind at this point in time. If you haven't already decided, it's I think you would be very unusual. We're in for the final few weeks before the election. Will there be more surprises coming? My guess is yes. But I don't understand Joe Biden ducking the question on packing the court. He already knows the Senate's going to confirm. That's already pretty much a done deal. So if you're going to pack the court, he's saying, well, I'm going to wait for the Republicans to act. Well, the Republicans have already acted and have already told you what they're going to do. If, in turn, as president, you're going to try to change the number of justices and change over 150 years of U.S. history, I think the voters ought to know that. And by the way, people are already voting in advance by the millions. So it's nice to be informed in our choices. In other news, in Washington, the Senate Judiciary Committee is getting ready to vote on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, that vote is scheduled for next Thursday, and Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the entire Senate will take up Barrett's confirmation the next day. As Paul Strand reports, that is not stopping Democrats from fighting to keep her off the high court.
Senate opponents of Judge Barrett just won't give up. Even now, Democrats are trying to kill this confirmation process and suggesting Republicans have some sort of a moral duty to do so.
Delaying this nomination is the right thing to do here.
The Democrats calling to follow Abe Lincoln's example.
It was the closest in time that we have had in history to this, when a justice died closest to the election, and he waited until after the election.
And Senator Ted Cruz pointed out the real reason Lincoln didn't name a nominee.
They were gone, and the Senate would not return until December. So there was no Senate physically present to confirm that nominee.
Judiciary Committee Republicans voted to move forward.
If anybody in America is ready to go to the Supreme Court, it's Amy Bryant Barrett.
I'm really struggling to find out and to understand why Judge Barrett is such a threat to them.
It's being done, I guess, to show power and push someone through.
Democrats' latest objection is that Barrett didn't disclose 7 talks she took part in years ago at Notre Dame, one to a pro-life group.
Yesterday, a CNN report that there are 7 more speeches or talks that she has given that have not been disclosed to this committee.
After the vote to proceed, a witness from the American Bar Association explained why Barrett received its highest rating, reading positive comments.
One said, "The myth is real. She is a staggering academic mind."
Then other witnesses appeared, both for and against Barrett's nomination. Given recent riots in the streets, one colleague said of Barrett,
"She cares deeply about America. She does not want to burn the whole place down."
Democrats present the idea of a Supreme Court Justice Barrett as the sure death of Roe v. Wade. That's not what abortion advocate Crystal Good wants.
I have put my faith in the Supreme Court, and with this nomination, I am losing faith.
But a former clerk said Barrett will be great on the high court.
As a Supreme Court justice, she would be a role model for generations to come, as she is for me.
Chairman Graham wrapped up the 4 days with high praise.
I've never met a more amazing human being in my life.
Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Capitol Hill.
I want to turn now to Israel, where military insists Hezbollah is building missiles at 3 locations in Lebanon. But the Iranian-backed terror group denies the charge, claiming they're industrial sites. And as CBN's Chris Mitchell shows us, Hezbollah felt pressure to go further and prove their claims.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the world last month that Hezbollah was again manufacturing precision-guided missiles to use against Israel. He showed his proof to the UN General Assembly.
This is the Beirut neighborhood of Janah. It's right next to the international airport. And here, Hezbollah is keeping a secret arms depot.
Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah denied the accusation, going as far to take reporters on a nighttime tour of the Janah location.
We came today to confirm that this facility is a normal industrial facility in this area for years. It's a facility that is working, and you will take a look through it. In front of all media organizations, we will show their lies first, because we're broadcasting live to all local Arab and foreign media outlets.
Netanyahu wasn't so precise about what's in the site. It was a missile depot, arm depot, explosive depot, but the IDF spokesperson were quite precise that it's a manufacturing site. So you don't necessarily have to see missiles there.
Military expert, retired IDF Brigadier General Asef Orion says the important thing is to look beyond the surface.
So on the operational side, you saw no missiles, but Israel was pretty quick on its feet to show the exact machines, their use, and even identifying Hezbollah members by name, saying this is the guy, this is his job.
The IDF also tracked a transport truck leaving one of the exposed sites and arriving at another one.
All of this comes in period when Hezbollah is facing serious sensitivity in the public after the Beirut port explosion, which was devastating. And on September 22nd, we saw another explosion in Kana, southern Lebanon, which they tried to mask and divert.
Backed by Iran, Hezbollah operates as both a terror organization and political party. That combination forces it to hide operations, while not alienating the public.
So the system is clear. Iran is an enabler. It builds forward capabilities and it runs an indirect warfare, a long twilight war against its rival by proxy.
Within hours of the UN speech, Nasrallah moved to appease the Lebanese public, while also putting together the press tour.
I think Hezbollah was shocked to see how exposed it is, and the promptness of reaction shows that it's under serious stress to vindicate itself in front of the Lebanese public.
And the high-profile press tour paid more dividends than expected.
In fact, unwittingly, it allowed Israel inside reconnaissance services showing what's inside and trying to vindicate itself that there are no missiles, but there was a lot of other stuff to see. And thank you for letting us in.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Danger being exposed. Gordon?
Well, there is danger in the world today, and my fear is that we're so divided politically. Regardless of who wins this election, will they walk into either a new term or a next term handicapped and severely handicapped because of how divided we are. Our enemies are noticing, and they're getting a lot more aggressive, whether that's Turkey being aggressive in Armenia and Syria, or Russia saying, well, let's take advantage of this, or China. The Chinese president was recently quoted telling the military of China to get ready for war. And they're massing troops, and it looks like Taiwan is their target. What they haven't been able to achieve diplomatically, they're willing to say, well, we'll try with our military. And you look at what's happened with Hong Kong recently, the one state, two systems is now gone. And if you're a political opponent or you raise a question about government in Hong Kong, get prepared to be extradited to China, well, you'll spend your life in prison. So our enemies are quite aware of how we're divided. And my prayer is, regardless of who wins, can we please come together? We need to lead the world. We don't need to fight one another. And now more than ever, the world needs our leadership. And whether it's what Iran is doing, what Hezbollah is doing, Turkey is doing, North Korea is still doing, China is planning to do, we need to be one United States of America.